There's this thing about fever. There was a story I read a few years ago, and it always stuck with me. It was a story about a man who went to the dentist because he was in excruciating pain. And when he got to the dentist told him that he had an infection. But this man did not have health insurance. And so when he was given two medications, one was a painkiller and one was an antibiotic, he could only choose one of them. And so, like many of us, he chose the painkiller. He just didn't want to feel the pain anymore. He wanted to be numb. And so what happened is he took the painkiller so he didn't have to feel that anymore. But what happened to the infection? Well, the infection wasn't being addressed. Because he did not address the infection, it actually spread to his brain, and this gentleman ended up dying of the infection. Now, why did this story stick with me so much? This is a true story. The reason it stuck with me is because it was so symbolic of what happens to us in our lives. When we are in pain, either individually or collectively as a community or globally or as an ummah, we tend to just try to treat the symptoms. We just want the pain to go away, but we don't actually treat the root cause of that disease. See, there's a thing about fever. When you have a fever, and this is something me and my husband have recently been experiencing a lot of, when you have a fever, you can take a lot of fever reducer. You can take Tylenol, you can take ibuprofen. But the fever itself is an indication of another problem. It's one thing to try to numb our pains in life. And it's another thing to actually go and look at why are we sick. And that's what I want to talk about today. As an ummah, we're sick. And the Prophet ﷺ said that the ummah is like one body. And when any single part of that body is in pain or is sick, the entire body breaks out in fever. The fever is an indication that there's a sickness. We are in pain as an ummah. We are in pain all over the world. We are in pain here. We are in pain individually in our lives. We are in pain collectively. We are in pain politically. The body gets sick and weak when it is deprived of its ultimate needs. That's one of the reasons why the body becomes sick and weak, is when we deprive the body of its most essential needs, it becomes weak and it becomes sick. Just like the body, our hearts become sick when we deprive our hearts of the most essential need that the heart has, and that is the spiritual oxygen. What is our spiritual oxygen that we are collectively being deprived of? That is the remembrance of Allah, dhikr, our salah. We have deprived our hearts of the oxygen that the heart needs to stay alive. If a person isn't praying, it's like a person who isn't breathing. We have deprived ourselves of the remembrance of Allah in our lives, and as a result, we have become sick. We have become sick as individuals, and we have become sick as an ummah. The remembrance of Allah is the oxygen, the food and the water of the heart. And so because we are depriving ourselves of that, our hearts have become sick collectively.